share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share. Recipe Share, Recipe Share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV where we take a few minutes to talk about recipes in a featured category. Today's category is Treat Yourself. I'm Katie, and as usual, I'm joined today by Elizabeth and Beth to tell us about their recipes. So, Elizabeth, tell us what you chose today.
All right. Thanks, Katie. So for me, treating yourself is carbohydrates, and is particularly pasta. I absolutely love pasta. I would eat it for every meal if I could. So I guess I could, but if it was good for you, I would eat it for every meal. So I also really, really like savory pasta. So this week I made what was called Pantry Pasta. And it's supposed to be with things that one might have in their pantry. There's lots of modifications based on what you might have in your pantry. This recipe was from Allison Rowan. I've cooked from her before, and I subscribed to her newsletter. So this actually was a recipe that she sent out about 2 weeks ago, and I made it, and I was really excited about it. So basically, what you do is you put a pot of salted water on to boil. And while you're doing that, you finely chop half an onion and a couple cloves of garlic and put them in a small bowl with salt and pepper to let them kind of mix. That's going to be your topping. And then you cut up some more garlic cloves, a couple shallots, and you put that in a skillet with a good amount of olive oil, about a quarter to a third of a cup, and a couple of tablespoons of butter as well. And let that kind of just start to come together for 5 to 8 minutes. And then you, while that's happening, you are going to chop some capers, open a tin of anchovies, and also chop some parsley. And you add in the capers and anchovies. The anchovies, it's amazing. They kind of just melt into the sauce. The capers get in there. And at the end, you add in the parsley, and it's just this like extremely flavorful sauce. You boil the pasta, let it, you take it out just before it's al dente, and use tongs to bring it over into the skillet. And with that comes a bit of pasta water, which is what you need because that kind of makes the sauce really nice and glossy. And you kind of finish it in the skillet. It absorbs a little bit of the flavor. Add more pasta water as needed. And then you're done, and you top it with the garlic lemon mixture that you made before. And also I had some pecorino, is that how you say it? Cheese. So added that on top as well. There's that's it. It's just a bowl of really flavorful, salty, briny, garlicky pasta, and it's so good. I ate 3 bowls of it, and it was fantastic, and I felt treated. So I really liked it. You could certainly leave the anchovies out if you are a vegetarian, but for me, I loved that little bit of flavor, and it was just so many strong flavors that came together so well. So I have a photo actually of my bowl that I can show here, and it was great.
Sounds super decadent. Just all of those flavors together and so much garlic. I love that. And I also really appreciate the technique of how you put the pasta onto the pan to include the pasta water. That's really smart. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So did you say you used a whole tin of anchovies?
I did. I mean, one of the little square ones, and they kind of just melded into the sauce, and it was not overly fishy at all. It was tasty.
Yeah. I mean, they're salty.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd be down to try that. I don't, it's not something I eat very often, but I'm not opposed to, yeah.
It did feel like Katie said, pretty like it's not going to be a weekly staple for me, but it was delicious and something that every so often I could sense myself. I could get the sense that I might like crave, like, oh, that sounds so good right now. So yeah. Anyway, Beth, what did you make?
Well, when we came with this idea of treating ourselves, my head went to goat cheese. I don't know why, but and I made this dish for my family actually on New Year's Eve day, and so all this time went by and I was like, oh, how did I even make that anyway? Did I really treat myself when I made that dish? No, I treated my family. What would I want to have to treat myself? So it did include goat cheese again, but this time and it came together because my husband came back from Costco with more goat cheese. So I was like, that's it. I'm pulling this. It's a layered tort is what it can be considered, with goat cheese. I mixed pretty much equal parts of goat cheese and butter, salted butter, cream those together. And then I layered it in a dish. So here's a picture and you can see the layers. And so there's the white. Anyway, I layered it in a ramekin I lined it in plastic so that I could lift it out. So it had, so that was, the downside of that was it wasn't clear. So I couldn't really see what my layers were. And I'm not that good at guessing. But suffice it to say, the bottom goat cheese layer was thicker. And then there was a layer of pesto. And then I had another layer. And then I topped it with sun-dried tomatoes that I chopped up. So good. Now, I was debating whether or not I would try it with tapenade. I didn't have any olives, as it turned out, so I didn't. But boy, oh boy, was that good. Like, I made it a couple nights ago, and then like yesterday, I was like, it is treat yourself. So I'm going to have that on my toast. And I did. And I just love the pesto and goat cheese and sun-dried tomato combination. So yummy. So anyway, that's my story.
Do you cook it at all? Or is it like, okay, it's just layered up. And then you said you cream the goat cheese with butter?
Yes. It makes it extra decadent.
I've never heard of that before. That does sound amazing.
There was many years ago, actually a former patron of ours, but years and years and years ago, she made this spread that was for a fundraiser, but it was just the goat cheese and butter. And sometimes it's one of those things where I'll think about it like, oh my God, that was so good. So I decided I wanted to incorporate that. I had the pesto already, did a layer of that. I did just look at the internet this morning. I mean, I know these things are out there. There's a lot of different ways to make a layered tort like that, but with the butter and goat cheese, it's actually, if you remember way at the beginning, one of my first things I made, family tradition, was chorizo, and I learned that it was actually really goat cheese. So a little recreation of that, but
cool.
Yeah, it's so good, y'all. Anyway.
It sounds amazing. Would you, when you served it to your family on New Year's Eve day, would they put it on crackers, or would it just scoop it out as like a spread kind of?
The one I made on New Year's Day though was different. It was a baked one. But I couldn't even remember exactly what it tasted like. So I know my family really liked it because of goat cheese, but I put it on crackers, on Triscuits. But I did put it on some sourdough toast, and that was really amazing. It's just Yeah, and it does. So my husband also was commenting on how pretty it looked because of the layers. Had I done it in clear layers, I'd be able, like I was trying to say, I'd have a better sense of how big the layers were. But so that's something to play with, and I will. So anyway, Katie, what did you treat yourself with this time?
All right. Well, this is a recipe that I have sort of been developing. It's for blueberry rice pudding. Um, I have loved rice pudding since I was a wee child. I used to order all the time at Coney Islands with my mom. So I have like this memory of it being a treat for myself since forever. So I was looking at different rice pudding recipes. I'd never made it like probably before 6 months ago at home. So I was looking to see how you do it. And so many of the recipes were, well, like all of the recipes were like, it's heavy cream and milk and sugar. And it's just like a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily always have in the house or that I don't necessarily like to buy all the time. So I was looking around and I found a couple recipes that used almond milk, which is something that I always have. And so I was like, that's great. Plus, you make it vegan, you know, a little bit more accessible recipe. So why not try it? Tried it. It was really good. And I was making it with raisins, which I think is like one of the best parts of rice pudding is like those little texture pops that you get in from the warm raisins in your rice pudding. But I was thinking about it and realized that I have a very big handful of friends that do not like raisins. And I think that includes you, Elizabeth. Is that right? Yeah. Don't like raisins. It's a common thing. And so I was thinking, what could you do instead of raisins? And I was at the grocery store and I found these. They are dried cranberries that are infused with blueberry juice. I was like, what? That sounds awesome. And they're really, really good. And I thought that like you could leave the cinnamon flavor of rice pudding in with blueberries. It'd be like a blueberry crisp sort of flavor. I thought, you know, that would taste good. So it did. Backstory over. Here's the recipe. You take, oh, and this does take a while. So it's not something that I do all the time. Like it takes over an hour to make this recipe and you kind of do have to attend to it. So you got to plan for it. So you take a half cup of jasmine rice and you just cook it up like you normally would until the water is gone. It usually takes about 20-25 minutes to do that. And then you add in your almond milk and some cinnamon sticks, and you're going to bring that up to a simmer and let that cook while you're stirring it for about 25 minutes. Just get all those flavors to meld together. And then you're going to add your blueberry, cranberry things and sugar. I use coconut sugar instead of regular sugar, as I often do. It tasted just fine. And then you cook for another 15 minutes while you're stirring it just to get everything incorporated. And I have a little picture here of it in the pot with the cinnamon sticks and the blueberries. And then you just take out your cinnamon sticks and serve it warm. I know some people like their rice pudding cold, but I am a warm rice pudding person. And as you can see in my final picture here, I will often serve it up to myself in a fancy bowl, with a fancy spoon on a fancy little board. So it's a treat for myself. And I do think it's funny, as I was thinking about this morning, I realized that I had made this recipe sort of like accessible for people that I know, my friends and family, so that it would be vegan and not have raisins. And I've made it several times and shared it with no one. I ate it all myself. So it truly was a treat for myself.
That's funny. I was gonna guess that you never shared it.
Never did. Totally intended to. Never did.
That sounds really good. I've had rice pudding as a child, but I haven't as an adult I think maybe because it's hard to make, not hard, but time consuming, I haven't made it. And I don't see it it doesn't occur. I don't think about rice pudding, and now I am thinking about it. So yeah, I'm interested. I mean, it's not difficult to make, right? It's just a bit time consuming. So yeah, that sounds really intriguing to me.
It's funny because guess who made rice pudding this week for something else? Yeah.
Well, you mentioned rice pudding the last time we recorded, so I knew that you kind of had something going on with rice pudding. I caught that. So.
Oh, but yeah, I'm still not sure if I'm going to use it as one of our categories, but I might. So, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for watching Recipe Share. And be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes we talked about and to share your own in the comments. Join us next time when we'll be talking about toddler-friendly recipes. We're looking forward to seeing what you've been making. So thanks for sharing.
Recipe share, share a little recipe.